Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rainbow Six Collegiate Championship. It's 2022, and we've got another season, a semester of exciting collegiate siege being broadcast to you this year. I am Jonah. I was here last year, and I'm going to take you through the action again, but welcoming a new face. It is my good friend Fellow. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Always love to get the quote unquote Jello duo back in action no matter where we end up going to. But hey, first time, always bound to be enjoyable here for the R6 Collegiate Championship. I mean, there are a lot of teams in here that I've never been able to talk about, but I mean, better late than never to start meeting them, I suppose.
Yeah, the format here in the Collegiate Championship, it gives us a unique perspective and a unique viewpoint to see a lot of other teams that may not make an appearance in a variety of other collegiate leagues. Tonight, we've got an exciting one, but first, let's talk a little bit about the format that we see for this entire semester. We start out with the regular season, a 7-week Swiss bracket every week. You win, you face another team that wins, you keep on doing that until 7 weeks are up, and we've got a seeding of who's best in the South, who's best in the Central Division, who's best in the East, and who's best in the West. From there, it's a playoff bracket, single elimination, 16 teams battling it out for the grand prize. A $15,000 prize pool in this regular season. All of that, of course, connecting to the unified collegiate championship at the end of all this, a grand finale, the likes that Collegiate Siege has never seen. An exciting year. And to be a part of this for the first time, I could not be more excited.
Yeah, likewise. And I mean, hey, you know what they say, East Coast, Beast Coast, and that is actually the region we're going to be starting with today here for the Swiss format. It is going to be Buffalo versus UNC, and we'll quickly talk about their rosters before we get into the matchup, of course, for this best of three series. I believe we have them up and ready, perhaps, question mark? Yes, we do. Always love to see that. So far for UNC, it is going to be Kyle, Link, Rogue, TB, and Yeti. I do not believe it's the same Yeti that we all know and love inside of Pro League, but hey, hopefully he can perform just as well.
Yeah, UNCC, an important distinction, University of North Carolina, Charlotte, instead of, the flagship UNCC or UNC. But Niner Esports, they have been in the mix in a good, I wouldn't say a top position in Collegiate Siege, but they've been in the middle to the upper half of teams for quite some time. Just as we were headed into the season, they were ranked, in the initial top 10 power rankings. And we got to take a look at how this roster kicked off the season. They did get off to an unfortunate start, though, falling to York Esports in the first round of the Swiss bracket. And so now they're looking for a little bit of redemption. We'll take a look at Buffalo, though. On the other hand, Buffalo, they also got off to a tough start, going up against Virginia Tech and losing in week one. This roster of Chodapus, Zeeb, Void, Duck, and Mossy Zilla, this is a roster that has seen, a lot of success in the past as well. Last year, here in the Collegiate Championship, they ended up going to our main stage broadcast on the main R6 channel, and they took on Akron. They took on the big dogs in the conference finals. Of course, they could not finish that one out, and Akron ended up taking the whole thing, but they put on a big performance for all of us to see, and it was very exciting while they did it. So both of these teams, they're looking for a little bit of redemption arc tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, good practice still going up against some of the top teams inside of collegiate in general. But taking a look at the map bands real quick, we don't have the format set up just yet. We can just simply go over them. It's going to be Chalet, Villa, and Bank in that order. And I mean, that just screams excitement because a lot of teams inside of collegiate are not big fans of Bank. So having that be the final map here for tonight and also Chalet, which isn't a favorite to certain teams, I mean, that is quite a bold statement, Jonah.
Yeah, going to Chalet is going to be. I am super excited, and yes, like you said, it does make a statement, right? You've got
Yeah.
UNCC coming out of the bat and just picking this map that we don't see a lot of collegiate teams comfortable on initially. This could be a perfect proving ground for them, and it may be the statement they need to show that, what, we are better than Buffalo here tonight. But Buffalo taking us to Villa, a much more composed, strategic, I would argue, methodical and disciplined map that we're going to get to see from them. Potentially we could end up on Bank, which is just a whole nother mess that we who knows what we'll really see there. But if we do, very excited to see how both of these teams are able to adapt.
Yeah, bank can be considered a can of worms. But before we get into that can, we have to, of course, go into Chalet with both teams now being readied. We can take a look at the operator bands here on the lovely mountainside map of Chalet. One of my personal favorites. You can be incredibly aggressive here, but of course, there is always bound to be some sort of minute extension on almost every single site here. So you got to waste a lot of time early on having to deal with that util game. But because this map was picked so early on, I feel like both UNCC and Buffalo should at least understand the basics and be able to get the job done for those annoying parts of the round done just fine.
And well, the Thatcher is going to be that initial ban, and that is no surprise at all, fellow. This is something we see almost every single time on every single map. Now, that second ban does leave a little bit more up to the individual preference of teams, but it tends to be the Flores, those Rotero drones, that relatively new gadget in Siege that allows you to circumvent all of those projectile denial operators like the Wamai and the Jaeger, excuse me. But interestingly enough, the Jackal is actually going to be that second operator ban. Now, the Jackal is something you see, generally more in a ranked setting and probably in lesser, less high level competition in Siege, but it also is a pretty good indicator of what these teams have on their mind, right? They do not want to get bogged down by maybe an aggressive roam clear. They want to roam as much as they can. And so with the Jackal off the board, maybe they can play those extended positions on this map a little bit longer.
Having that Kaid ban, but no Maverick at all is definitely a bit interesting. That opens up both Mira and Wamai for play. This could honestly be a very defender favored side for Chalet in particular, just because of how much you're going to have to deal with. I'm looking at, for example, if you go to bar and gaming room, you can bring out a Mira to hold library from pretty safe distance in the back of mezzanine. And you also have that Wamai on the board too, having magnets to stop out that piano util toss leading into the top of blue. That could waste so much time and be a complete nuisance for UNCC, especially if they lose somebody early on. Their util right now doesn't look bad at all. Six pick goes on out into Flores. I'm really loving this team comp here by UNCC, but also a pretty big fan of Buffalo's composition as well, despite the fact they're not bringing a mirror here.
We'll see exactly how this defense wants to set up. Something of note is that Buffalo elected to defend here on Chalet, which, as we've already talked about, is a little bit surprising on a map like Chalet that tends to lean attacker-sided, at least at the highest levels. But here, with Buffalo coming right off the bat, like you said, fellow, we might have been seeing more defensive-sided operator bans, so this could be exactly where they hope to thrive. In terms of this actual lineup, there isn't too much of a surprises in terms of the actual selection that Buffalo is going to bring out. Maybe the one operator that we don't see all the time is Frost on this top four defense, and make those builds advantage. Well, I say top floor defense. This is a bar and game site on that first floor, but it is very important for Buffalo to hold this top floor as long as they can. They know that UNCC will have to take this control in library from above. They've got to steamroll their way in and clear out that vertical if they want to get a pretty easy approach to the site below.
You mentioned verticality, Jonah. There is no Sledge or Buck on the board for Charlotte, so once they finally clear out that top floor, if they end up doing so, it's going to still be a pretty linear take moving downward in towards the site itself. And funny enough, speaking of Charlotte, they're actually going to be heading inside of Snowmobile and trying to get some cheeky kill holes in the back of stock, which honestly don't hate. Having that element of surprise could have guaranteed yourself an early pick and doesn't net them anything, but they don't lose any HP or really any util in the process. They'll just rotate around and be somewhere more useful here in this first round, as there has been no bloodshed, just a bit of poking and prodding so far between both Charlotte and Buffalo.
Yeah, but that poking and prodding from UNCC, it's coming through in a lot of different positions. It's not simply a top floor clear that they're trying to get done right now. What they're doing well is they're applying pressure from practically everywhere. I mean, initially entering through Snowmobile Garage, pressure from the basement. At the same time, you've got Yeti, you've got TB applying pressure up top, and in this case, lighting up Mossy Zilla, forcing Mossy to fall back, but right into the open arms of Kyle Pog. Of course, Kyle, as we know him, will take that opening duel. Void will get a quick trade, but now he's going to be pushed back. Surprise, Yeti's coming in from behind, and that will be the end of the Aruni. Now, rolling through this top floor, the rest of this attack will have no trouble forcing Zeev out of position. Link has been downed, but this attack is rolling through regardless. Kyle will pick up another kill, that one onto Zeev. It's Chotapus and Duck now to hold down the site in a 2v4.
I mean, incredible mobility, especially by Kyle. He was on the top floor dealing plenty of damage, getting one pick. And then once he noticed that the fallback happened by Buffalo, he immediately dropped down, played near the double window, and caught another defender off guard. It's technically a 2 versus 3, but now it's all up to Duck. He'll find one on a Kyle before they net their fourth one. 1 versus 2, not completely losable here, but they're aware of the smoke's position. A wallbang is attempted. TB runs right into the Mavericks line of fire, but that's still not the end of the world here, as it's just the lone smoke, and they don't have any more toxic canisters. These last 30 seconds are going to be quite a tricky situation to come back from, especially since he doesn't have a lot of intel to play off of. Spots out one, but runs out of ammunition, and Yeti is there on the swing near stock to give Charlotte their first round.
Dicey there in the end. There's no question about that. UNCC maybe could have backed off and tried to play the objective a little bit more instead of going aggressive and trying to play for the gunfight. But the one thing they did quite well was playing together and making sure to play the trade game, right? We saw it perfectly there from Yeti. Even though TB was lost, TB was already at low HP anyway. There wasn't much of a chance he was going to be able to stick that plant and get it down without Duck swinging him first. And so Yeti did his job, frankly, perfectly, just covering the angle he needed to, so that even if TB went down, he had an angle on bar stock so he could take the defender down with him. So a great start for UNCC, and we may not be seeing a fully geared, attacker-sided Chalet. We might be seeing that defensive-sided map still, but it is going to be UNCC on the attacking side to come out with an opener. And for Buffalo, on their primary bomb site, when they wanted to start out on defense, that is not a good start for them. Of course, they want to remedy that and get as many rounds on the board as they can to start off the night.
Now, one thing I would probably prefer Buffalo to have is potentially a Mew, if not then a Mozzie in play. Either one would be quite phenomenal because of the fact Kyle is opting for that Flores. There's 3 deployable shields on the board, which are one of the most important secondary pieces of util in the game as a defender. So having the Rotero drone, which is an easy way to hard counter that shield play, but not having anything to deny that shield from being destroyed is a bit of an upset here for Buffalo. That could give a lot of early map pressure in the favor of UNCC and remove a lot of those key angles that Buffalo could have been holding on for a very long time in the map. And I think they have some of their util actually extended in towards the lower floor. They're going for a very risky extension, and I don't think their site presence is really all that strong except from both the Echo and Smoke player. If they're able to isolate these 2 defenders, this could be a very easy site to take here for UNCC.
Yeah, fellow, you're absolutely right. It's a tough site to hold down by just sitting on the site itself, so they try to extend, and at least right off the bat, it's not going to work too well. Void has already been lost. A great shot from Kyle, by the way, who just jumped in that game's window and took the first frag off the board. But a great start now means that Buffalo are going to have to be a lot more careful. You've got the yokai drones that Chotapis is bringing on the Echo, and that is a great piece of utility, versatile as well, that you can use on the bomb site, but you've got to use that quickly because here comes UNCC. They are not slowing down. Rogue will take down the Echo. That sole player you're really hoping remains for that plant denial. You still have Duck and you still have those toxic smokes, but a Rotero drone will force him back. A couple of bullets will land on his shoulders as he darts away. This 3v5 is going to be a tough situation for Buffalo to fight back. They've got this soft wall and this rotate potentially used to take down Rogue as he walks in, but Rogue is going to win that fight every time. There goes Duck. TB now sticking this plant. Rogue doesn't know where quite these final few defenders are positioned. Mossy will collect the kill because of it, but now the bomb's down, and we are in a post plant. Mossy and Zeeb need to get something done, and they've got to do it quickly because UNCC, their post plant coverage is perfect at the moment. Yeti will actually line up both of those kills as he sneaks in from behind, and Buffalo were none the wiser. That's 2 in a row for UNCC.
And I mean, I called it almost immediately. The lack of any denial to help keep those shields on the board for a very long amount of time really did spell disaster for Buffalo in a lot of different ways. A majority of the defenders that were still alive in the 5-on-3, they were just caught out in the open and didn't have a lot of natural cover to play around. It was just easy pickings for UNCC. And then they still had that high mobility that we witnessed on round number 1. They had Yeti rotate around from the backside and catch that last defender off guard. Again, the team play is top notch here by UNCC so far, and I really hope to see them continue this forward momentum going in round number 3.
is a little bit concerning, fellow, to see that we are heading back to the same bomb site again. Not just because seeing a defensive team do the same thing twice is never the greatest idea, but the fact is that Master and Office is honestly in the current meta not a very easy site to defend. In fact, it
Mhm.
may be the hardest site to defend on this map. A lot of teams, especially at the highest level, favoring Snowmobile and Garage, or Snowmobile Garage and Wine Cellar instead of this top floor because attacking teams, I mean, we saw how quickly UNCC was able to move in, and it's not just because Buffalo's setup was particularly weak or UNC's attack was all that strong. It's that the top floor site is a very tough one to defend. If you're on the site itself, you're vulnerable to the master window cutoff, to piano window, and the flood of attackers working their way in from that office balcony as well. If you're playing off the site, maybe trying to play for that late C4, you also run the risk of, yeah, not being in the right place at the right time to stop the attackers pushing in. That's the balancing act that Buffalo are trying to correct, and they're trying to run here in round three, but it is a tough balance to find. And UNCC, just how quickly they're moving into this map, they are trying to make sure that Buffalo are in the most uncomfortable position possible at any given moment.
So far, so good for UNCC. They're already opting to get this back wall opened up inside of offices. They could maybe go for a default plant if there is not a lot of denial left on the board. But the fact that you have Duck, all three smoke nades still in his back pocket, and the Yokai to deal with, along with those shields that have not been destroyed yet, that is still a pretty hefty hill to climb up here for UNCC. But they've got all the time in the world to do all of that util destruction and util burn as well. They've only had this first minute elapse, and plenty of map control already established. It's just going to be the game of patience to see how much utility they can expose out of Buffalo without really having to do all that much effort on their own end.
Well, speaking of the effort in terms of that utility game, that is going to be the first focus for this attack. UNCC doing a nice job of staying patient this round, not overstepping, making sure they take care of that utility before they actually push in. As such, Buffalo is now forced to use some of that utility Duck, using that first toxic smoke to delay a little bit of time, actually tempting a swing there on the piano double door before eventually falling back to safer grounds here. And Chodapis is actually the first one to take a lot of damage. I'd love to see this Echo play a little bit more passively because losing him so early can be quite detrimental. TB sticking this plant, no yokais to stop it, no toxic smokes arriving in time. Kyle Pog picks one up on the coverage. Buffalo now in this retake are fighting this on the back foot in a 3v4.
Yeah, not the best positioning here. Zeeb could go on a potential flank, but isn't being gifted a pick just yet. He'll have to be quite patient, and the information is there. A flash comes flying out. Zeeb is fully blinded. He won't be that much help in this current predicament, but now it's a 2 versus 4 situation. Technically 1v4, as Zeeb is still nowhere to be spotted on the site. It's only Void left in the middle of Master, and Kyle Pog has got their number. A 2K for the Flores, and finally Zeeb will make their way back up on the top floor, but look at the timer. We're already at that 7-second mark, and there's simply no more left on the board for him to bring this one out. It's 3 in a row for the attacking side as UNCC are on top of their game so far.
Yeah, UNCC looking really clean on the attack right now. And, good for them. It is their map pick. They did walk into Chalet for a reason. So you expect them to come out of the gate swinging. And unfortunately for Buffalo, at least right now, it does seem that either Chalet isn't their territory, first and foremost, or that just maybe they're having a little bit of an off night. They've just yet to really chain some of these defensive rounds together, rather find much success at all, even in those early round, the mid round, the late round. It's all going UNCC's way. And that's something we're going to have to see Buffalo remedy. There is going to be a quick rehost while we work out, maybe getting the ping established here, getting everyone back in this lobby hopefully soon. But while we do that, good timeout opportunity for Buffalo to talk things over and maybe figure out what exactly they need to change going forward. They've got 3 more chances. All they need really is 2 rounds to consider it a success on an attacker sided map. A 2-to-4 split would be totally fine. So maybe they just find what site they want to go to, which 2 sites they want to defend successfully, and they can approach with a better plan in mind.
Yeah, hopefully we can have that happen because there have been a bit promising moments here for Buffalo. They've been able to remain slightly calm, at least during the end game, but just not in the best positions to say the least. With that being said, though, we've got a couple of rounds to readjust during the rehouse. So we'll go to a quick little break and be back in a few short minutes to continue our journey here on Chalet. Don't go anywhere.
Thank you for sticking with us, everyone. We are back in the action after a quick rehost. Just had to work out the servers. Sometimes, servers are exploding left and right. We just had to make sure everyone's ping was okay so they can keep on fighting a fair fight. But here we are, 3 rounds in, and UNCC fellows seem to be very on top.
Yeah, and it's a bit concerning that we're going back to Master for a third time in a row. Now, to play devil's advocate, they have a mute finally, which I was really harping on that they need something to deny all the drone game, to deny those Rotero drones. So they're finally changing in that manner, but not even trying to go to a different objective room, not even trying kitchen or dining or even the basement floor. It's definitely a bit questionable, and it really makes me wonder, are they comfortable here on Chalet? I'm not too sure so far.
Yeah, the fact that they're going to Master in Office for a third time in a row after two quite unsuccessful defensive performances does suggest to me, fellow, that they are not comfortable on Chalet, right? A team that's comfortable on Chalet has a couple more sites that they are at least somewhat comfortable on. Kitchen and Dining, a strong site. Usually we see that from defensive teams often before we even see Master in Office. And if Master in Office is not working, why don't you just switch it up and try something else? Because these 2 last rounds, I mean, they haven't really been that close. And when you go to a site a third time, you've got to have a very clear reason and you've got to make some pretty significant adjustments. Right now, that is not what we are seeing. So, Chotapus still bringing out the Echo. Zeeb still rocking the Jaeger. We've got the same defensive lineup for the most part, and UNCC, all they've got to do is stick with what they know.
Yeah, I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And the operator lineup for Buffalo isn't even that bad. They just aren't implementing it the right way. I feel like in general, their team play has been more to be desired from for now. And they're still on these very light roam games, kind of playing for themselves. If they get a pick, that's great. If they destroy some drones or waste some time, that's not bad either. But they haven't been doing any of that really. They've just been dying off in the beginning of those rounds, giving that man advantage to UNCC and that vital map control. But this time around, finally, there's some sort of change. 3 defenders all kind of stacked up next to one another. They could easily play for a refrag, but unfortunately, that middle floor is not the point of contention. It's going to be that back wall leading inside of offices here for UNCC to gain some nice early sightlines against that anchor game.
Duck trying to work with this position again, something that has been tough for him to hold down in the past, right? These toxic smokes, even though he's utilized those to delay time, he hasn't actually been able to maintain this position for very long. This is why the Flores can be so damn powerful. It just rolls through with those Rotero drones. Bye-bye shield, bye-bye duck on that power position. He's got to relocate, and he'll have a much tougher time slowing down the piano double door push. At the same time, now that they've dealt with that one avenue of attack, UNCC can now work their way into office, send some drones in there, and now Rogue will just hold that office doorway like he's been doing so successfully in the past few rounds. And in a moment, I suspect we're going to see UNCC push on in. Kyle Pog will open up the fragging, taking down Mossy, but once again, a good start for this attack.
Absolutely. That mute playing underneath could have been deadly with the shotgun and nitro cell combination, but he will not live to tell the tale. Void finds a refrag. Is that going to be enough, though? Possibly. There's still the Yokais on the board, plenty of regular utility, and Duck has his toxic canisters, but now we're heading in towards the site itself. The plant's going down, and so far, there's no denial just yet. Void finds a second, make it a third on the Aruni, but they're caught in the reload by the Finka. 2 versus 2, now a 2-on-1 as Rogue picks up another in the middle of sight, and it's just Zeeb up in the roam game towards the middle floor will have to try to burrow their way back up the solar stairs and probably have to deal with a post-plant situation. Kyle's going to rotate across inside of Master to go for a really close setup, and there is some information for Zeeb to play off of, but not a lot of time. Only a few seconds left, but he denies the plant. We're now in red time, and it's all up to Rogue to try to clutch in this 1 versus 1. 10 seconds remain, and Zeeb just falls back. The passivity by the Jaeger actually might play into their strengths, as now Rogue is going to have to stick the plant, and you cannot plant inside of Closet. Barely enough time to stick it, and there's more information for Zeeb to play off of. He'll have to be caught on a reload. Rogue is being granted the opportunity to go in another clutch situation and gets aggressive. UNCC take 4 in a row, but man, was that situation so close for both teams.
Yeah, taking that one away by the skin of their teeth, but a situation that Buffalo really should have won. I mean, Zeeb had it They had it in front of them and just let it slip away. They had a ping. They had a bulletproof cam exactly onto the planter's position. They had a ping exactly where the bomb was going down. And so Zeeb tried to floor bang from below, but he really couldn't. He just missed. And what he probably should have done was continue to attempt that. The ping should have been a call out from a teammate as well that said, you know what, you're just a little bit off. Move a little bit more forward. You can find the angle and you can get that frag. Instead, making the decision to go about halfway through that plant, decided to rotate up the solarium stairs and take the fight head on. Because of that momentary indecision, Zeeb was caught out in an uncomfortable spot, and Rogue was more than happy to just take that pre-fire with the LMG. At that range, in a situation like that, Rogue has a lot more bullets to spare than Zeeb did, and UNCC are able to take the round because of it. That is 4 in a row, fellow.
Yeah, and the mental game probably by UNCC is top notch. I mean, they should have lost that round. 1 to 2 seconds away from knocking the plant down because you weren't aware that you couldn't plant inside of closet, and then going for a pre-fire Hail Mary attempt. I mean, like you said, down to the wire at the skin of their teeth, but we're not going to see Master. Thankfully, for a fourth time in a row, we're going back to Bar and Gaming, where the utility game wasn't a big talking point on round number one. Instead, it was the high mobility by UNCC, which granted them a lot of early picks, and then they were able to transition that down onto the bottom floor, despite the fact that they didn't have a sledge, but what they did have was Yeti. Find a nice couple quick sets of kills, and he'll be doing the exact same thing early on round number 5 as Duck already falls.
Oh, that is not a good sign for Buffalo. Losing your smoke this early in the round, unable to use any of those toxic babe canisters before falling. Not a great place to start. Still 4 players alive, and their top floor hold is still intact. Void and Mossy are at the helm of this top floor hold. You've got Void by Chimney, Mossy on the top of these library stairs. But again, those Rotero drones ignore all of those magnets and ADSs that Mossy may have set up. His shield is gone, and now his position is vulnerable. Void, also clearly vulnerable, was taken down moments before. Mossy will finally fall, and here comes Rogue, just storming in the middle of the bomb site. 2 players back in the middle of this site. One is going to be dealt with quickly. There goes Zeeb. Last one alive is Chodipus, who tries to get something done, but TB from above, he'll drop down the hatch, getting the final kill and giving the 5th round in a row to UNCC.
I mean, we talk about attacker favoritism here on Chalet, but not to this degree. UNCC are just, they're in their element right now. They are doing everything correctly as an attacking team. They're applying pressure, they're getting opening picks, they are really establishing themselves as a dominant team right now. And Buffalo, they've had no response in almost every single round. The only close call we had was on round number 4, and that was still a semi-favorable position once the Finca was actually inside of that post plant because they had better information and they had a better gun in that 1 versus 1. So it's really up to Buffalo just to try to not have their mental game chalked and really start to change their play style entirely. And with the fact that we are now seeing Master for a 4th time in a row, Jonah, and really no change in their lineup in terms of team composition, I don't think we're going to be seeing that here on Chalet, unfortunately.
Yeah, going to the same site 4 different occasions on a map is not a great sign. And Buffalo, I just took a look at our map bans to see, what was their mentality leaving Chalet up on the board. They went with a coastline ban right off the bat, so maybe those aggressive maps, the ones that can often just turn into a frag fest, you could say, are not their comfort zone. That's why they banned Coastline. Chalet, not as frag heavy as Coastline, but still more frag heavy than a map like Oregon, Villa, Clubhouse. All of those maps, we generally see a lot more, you could say, methodical playstyle shine through at the end of the day. So Buffalo, they are in a very tough spot. Here on the defensive side, they've yet to win a round. This is the side they wanted to start, which doesn't give me a ton of confidence that when they do switch over to the attacking side, fellow, that we're going to see much of a change. They've got to get 1 round here. That's really the bare minimum if we want to see them walk away with any sort of hope of taking this one to overtime, maybe to open up the series. But at the very least, I'd like to see them get a couple of rounds, not to win the map, but to get some momentum back on their side, heading into their own map pick. I'd love to see Buffalo playing a little bit more confident.
Yeah, I agree because they have the right idea on paper, but they just aren't putting themselves in the proper places to really have their ideas shining through. They've been going on a roam game almost every single round, yet they don't really group up to one another that much. And they like to fall back pretty early on as well. I feel like if they had two very aggressive roamers playing off of each other, that could be a perfect chemistry set to find some sort of opening pick, maybe get rid of the Hard Breacher, for example, or maybe the Lion or even a Ying now since Rogue is opting for that operator this time around. And that's going to weaken the attack here of UNCC because they have been going almost every single round without losing any life early on. And unfortunately, round number 6, it's going to be the exact same case as we're now in the second half of this action phase and no one has fallen on either side.
Well, the bonus here for Buffalo is that in many of the last few rounds, we have seen one of these defenders fall very early. And this time, they're fighting in a 5v5. The one element they may not know, though, is that you've got Rogue just trying to sneak in and go for a clear of these extended players down below. Just trying to walk straight on into Kitchen and Dining, but actually getting punished for it while he attempts that play. Kyle Pog is actually the first one to fall. An opening kill for Buffalo is a great sign for them because now UNCC, you can see this now, they're scrambling a little bit. They don't entirely look comfortable like we've seen them in the past. You've got these attackers all over the place. You've got Yeti in one position, Link in another. Yeti will, of course, pick up a kill on that Master Repel. And now, TB actually trying to get this bomb down. Candela's to assist, and nobody from Buffalo is going to step up. We're not seeing Chodipus use those yokai drones, and he dies because of it. Void has an answer, takes down Link, but we're still in an even 3v3, and Buffalo need to speed this up on the retake. Mossy trying to come in from Solarium, cannot support his teammate Void, who dies at the same time. There goes Mossy falling onto his back, and now, once again, it is all up to Zeeb in a post plant. Trying to work his way back through this bathroom side, but it's going to have to deal with Yeti on the Master Repel. Such a strong position. If he exposes himself to this angle, not something that Zeeb is likely to win. With 14 seconds, this one is now looking all but impossible for the Jaeger, who is out of time to accomplish this retake. UNCC, a flawless attacking half to open up the series. That is certainly a statement to make.
Yeah, I definitely looked confident while doing so as well. That was pretty strong, especially on round number 6, where they actually had a struggle trying to clear out that bottom floor. They just simply rotated around. They said, you know what, forget about it. It's maybe one nitro cell we have to worry about. I think the bigger picture still remains on that top floor where they have an echo. They've got a smoke on the board. There's plenty of denial in that one area. If we just plant somewhere a bit more unorthodox, we could avoid that nitro cell. And if we get a pick onto someone like the smoke or the echo, that's going to still favor us tenfold in comparison to killing the roam game underneath. So that was a really good call by UNCC, especially having Yeti play up inside of that master window. That's a point you always love to talk about when you go on Chalet because some teams avoid it like the plague, but Yeti seems to love that position as he found a lot of success just sitting there on the Maverick and really being a key factor of his team winning that final round on the first half.
Well, fellow, we have made it to the halfway point. Doesn't feel like halfway. Feels more like the ultimate or penultimate round of the map. But we are halfway through nonetheless. 6 rounds in, and UNCC have established a dominant lead. Buffalo and Buffalo fans out there can take some solace in the fact that we are now switching sides and that we have yet to see Buffalo attack this map. We have yet to see UNCC defend. So theoretically, we could see the same attacking imbalance on the other side of the coin, but a couple of concerns right off the bat. I've obviously expressed them already about how Buffalo doesn't seem to be comfortable on this map, but think about one of those operators who was such a key part of that UNCC attack. It was the Flores. We saw how brutal those Rotero drones were attacking the defensive utility, and Buffalo have chosen to forego the Flores entirely in favor of the Nomad, in favor of the Ace and the Yana. They are bringing a different selection that, while potent, I'm sure, in its own right, I think isn't capitalizing quite enough on the operator bans.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. It's not a necessity, don't get me wrong, but it just makes your life and your job as an attacker so much easier, not having to worry about those shields. You could save your grenades for just a player altogether, or even helping burning through util if you desperately need that. But normally you end up saving those grenades after the ASs have been burned. But moving around as of now, we already have a bit of information being gathered for Buffalo. Kyle doesn't really seem that worried. He might get caught in some sort of crossfire in a moment or two because we got some players stacked up near the double window and players already hopping inside of library. But if he can at least bring one down in the grave with him, this could be a pretty decent position to play in as the Jaeger because he's already burnt through so much time, so many drones, and regular utility of those stuns. I mean, this has already been a pretty dangerous job here for Kyle to attend with, and he brings one down with him, like I just mentioned, and no one's aware of his position. They thought that he fell back, but it was the improper call. A team kill is abrupted by Yeti, but it's not going to matter, Jonah. The damage, it's simply already been done.
Oh man, for Buffalo, things are falling apart in what could be the last hope and making a stand here on Chalet. Rogue is going to go for a very courageous play, trying to come up the library hatch, but Buffalo were more than prepared for that cheeky maneuver. So it'll be a 2v3. Not an impossible situation by any means for Buffalo, considering that you still have two Selmas from Void. You've got, two drones to throw out there from Zeeb and utilize if you can. So you can get some intel. You can get some hard destruction going as we see those Selma charges now being detonated on that office wall. It just comes down to, can Buffalo find the frags they need? They've got to take care of this office player in an attempt to get this plant down. Yeti has only used one of those toxic smokes, though, so you've got to be careful because that is going to waste time. That is going to deny your plant. So effectively, they will force and bait out the next toxic smoke. Yeti still has one more, and Buffalo have 30 seconds to get something going. Link on the coverage here. Piano double doors being watched very carefully. Zeeb trying to make a swing. Link knows there's going to be an air jab coming around the other side, and Zeeb doesn't clear his corner. Link will take him down, all up to Void, who gets one. Needs to find two more, though, and only has 15 seconds. Swinging into Piano. Link behind the shield will pop right up and finish Buffalo off. That is a beautiful 7-0 start for UNCC. Chalet is their territory. Buffalo just could not figure it out.
And you could definitely tell that the communication was not there on round number 7 for Buffalo. They allowed the Jaeger to just lurk there for such a long time. Kyle did a ton of damage, not only in wasting time and flashbangs and drones as well, but also players. He picked up 2 before being killed by not even his opponent. It was his own teammate landing a crossfire shot with him to actually put him in the dirt. That is a pretty impressive play by the Jaeger, but such a huge upset by Buffalo because they really had him there. They had him in their hand, but just let him get away somehow, like sand at a beach.
Tough start from Buffalo. There's no doubt about that. Heading into Villa, couple of concerns, of course, to talk about just what we saw in that last attacking round. Couple of issues they're going to have to work out. Maybe they can take the next few minutes between these maps to work out those kinks. While they do that, we are going to take a quick break. So stick with us. Hopefully, we will be right back.
Well, Jonah, after seeing the entire game being taken by storm in the hands of UNCC, we're moving on to Villa, which I believe to be the map pick here of Buffalo. So maybe this could be some greener pastures here for Buffalo, but in all honesty, I'm a bit concerned for them. But I wanted to hear your takes as we move in through the operator bands between these two teams on Villa, Jonah.
Right, we only got to see one Buffalo attacking round on Chalet Fellow, so it's not like we have that much to go off of. But in the one round that we did see, however chaotic as it was, there were a couple of concerns from Buffalo that worked their way through the woodwork, right? One of those was lack of intel, lack of droning and communication amongst the team. When they made that library entry, they worked their way into the building. Who was sitting in a corner waiting for them? Oh, the one and only Kyle Pog. Now, he was sitting there and he tore them apart. Not because he was able to miraculously line up all of them before they knew what hit him. No, he got one kill at a time. And it seemed that Buffalo just didn't have the coordination, the communication to stop him from continuing to wreak havoc on that side of the map. Of course, Buffalo were kind of able to work their way back into the round a little bit there, but on Villa, especially, a much larger map just in terms of sheer size, they will need to get a hold on these defenders, these roamers, especially as soon as humanly possible. We'll get to that in a moment, of course. Now that we've completed the operator ban phase, we do have some clarity as to what kind of Villa we are going to see. Our attacker bands, nothing crazy there. The Thatcher and the Flores, the Mira taken off the board on the defensive side as well is not much of a surprise. But the Kaid ban is a little bit unique here just because it means that we will have the Valkyrie guaranteed up on the board.
Yeah, she is a pretty annoying operator to deal with, especially because, like you mentioned, how big this map of Villa actually can be. Interesting first site selection here by UNCC. They're opting to go living room and library, which honestly, I'm kind of a fan for. You kind of play it the same way as you would a kitchen and dining defense, where you have some sort of extension above on the top floor. Instead of it being more towards the Astro side of the map, it's normally just directly above the site. That way you can deny verticality if they bring out a sledge or a buck, and also just be in a pretty comfortable position to waste a lot of time and, again, resources by the side of Buffalo. I mean, UNCC, they did a phenomenal job of burning through several drones, seconds, and flashes. I mean, I've said that 8 times. I'll reinstate it another one here today on Villa, as just Kyle by himself was such a force to be reckoned with. Now that he'll most likely have other teammates to play off of on that roam game, this could spell disaster for Buffalo unless, like you mentioned, they're able to remedy their issues we saw in Chalet pretty much right here on round number 1.
Well, Buffalo have to work their way into a setup maybe that they've never seen before, fellow. You don't really know. It's not so often that attacking teams have to work their way through this site, and so they're going to have to get their priorities in check as soon as they can. They have to, first of all, create a plan of attack. They want to go direct, go above. They've got to work out what they want to do, and they've got to do that as soon as possible. They cannot afford to be indecisive on a map like Villa. Whatever your plan may be, you've got to get it started as soon as possible because it takes a lot of time to get that done. As we can see, Chotapis will be working in his way in on the top floor. Void will be joining them. You've got, I believe, Duck, who made an initial entry or initial opening on that first floor, but will now join his teammates on the top floor now to open up these avenues of attack, open up these rotations, and make sure that if UNCC do want to roam and rotate, that they'll be cut off up above if they overextend.
Believe we had Zilla actually in the middle floor for some odd reason. You'd think the sledge player having so much to wield with in that hammer, he'd actually playing on the top floor, helping out with that roam clear. No, he's actually very close to the bomb site, almost a few steps away from Mudroom, and that could potentially cost him his own life. We had Link playing relatively close near that part of living room. He'll end up falling away and now looking towards the actual main hallway door set instead. For the most part, Buffalo, they don't really have their eyes attached to that top floor for the most part. They've got a couple of players around there lurking about, but they're most likely just waiting for a fallback to catch a defender off guard. Instead, they're going for a hard breach take inside of living room, which might catch a couple of players off guard, but Rogue really does not seem phased at all as he already gets through the sledge early on. That's a fantastic pick for UNCC.
Yeah, you were talking about the element of surprise maybe that Buffalo could have towards this UNCC defense, but it looks like the script was flipped there, and it looks like UNCC caught Buffalo a little bit off guard. Mossy has been taken care of. Like you said, the sledge is so important on a site like this, and I mean, looking at the progress that Buffalo have made on this top floor, I mean, it just amounts to almost nothing. Yeti is still sitting calmly by the maps table with a shield in front of his face. Doesn't have to worry about much there, but wait a second. Void is trying to get this plant down here. Echo drone perfectly timed, though. TB was aware of this, and even though you got somebody on the coverage, they're not going to be able to stop that Echo drone from wreaking havoc. They're not going to stop two players from falling right after. Yeti will pick up another one, taking down Duck. It's going to be all fall on the shoulders of Chotapis and Zeeb, who are not in plate, they're not positioned together. They are both playing individual positions, and they are falling around each other because of it. A tough start for Buffalo. An interesting attempt there to get the bomb down early, and it looked for a moment that they were able to succeed, but that was not the case. UNCC, they will continue their streak, and I guess so far in the series, that is their 8th round in a row.
Yeah, I mean, still on top of their game, even transitioning onto Villa. That was a, like you said, very close call, but they were still able to hold their ground. And a big problem of not having a big emphasis on the roam game, especially on a big map like Villa, is at some point, you're going to have to deal with it no matter what, whether that be with a rotation that the defenders end up doing where they try to claw back into the site and you have to worry about your back and front now, or if you can't fully clear out the site to begin with and can't get a plant down, and now you're getting shot from up above, and you've got to deal with that roam game directly, but now you've got no time to play off of. It's a very difficult game and position to put yourself into, and Buffalo, in the last 30 seconds, they realized, oh, hey, there's still plenty of people up above that we're going to have to deal with at some point, and simply put it, they just were not able to. Great headstrong capabilities there by UNCC just to stick to their guns and really not give away all that much early on, except for that hard destruction and a near close call on the plant. And now they'll be heading in towards a much more default site. They're heading in towards Aviator and Games with a very big emphasis on that util game here.
Yeah, seeing how much of those shields they're bringing. I mean, you've got Yeti's deployable shield. You've got Link on the Goyo bringing those multiple Vulcan shields. And so to counter that, Buffalo are going to have a lot of explosive utility of their own. Thankfully for them, they're rocking the same lineup as they did last round. They've got the 2 nades from Chotapis on the Yana. They've got 2 nades on Mossy on the Sledge. And of course, you've got the Zofia for some explosive utility as well. And hell, even if you want to use those Selma charges to pop a shield, you do have that option. The question now remains, do Buffalo go direct right into study, maybe entering in from below and working their way up the main stairs, or do they want to clear all the way through this top floor? It does appear that we have our answer to that question. They'll be taking the latter approach, working their way in from the master side, clearing through trophy and statuary, forcing any roamers back to the site so that that top floor map control can be leveraged into a successful site execute.
Only big thing to worry about here, other than a potential flank on that roam game early on, is not funneling yourself when you're going in for a back take like this. A lot of teams will forget that they should probably open up hunting or have somebody rotate inside of study for a bit of hard destruction, and they end up just kind of walking in single file line inside of Skull, and they all end up dying to either a well-placed nitro cell or some toxic smokes to keep them at bay and force them to breach in during red time. So if we don't have, first of all, this clear on the roam extension done properly, because there is a lot emphasized here. Maybe this nade play could be a huge opener for Buffalo if timed correctly, and it'll be timed just right. Link will drop, and he'll get caught by his own Vulcan shield detonated by that grenade. So a phenomenal start here by Buffalo, but there is still plenty left here on the board for UNCC to make this a pretty difficult situation to claw back from Buffalo.
Well, here's a bit of a dangerous move now. Buffalo have to be careful. They've got Kyle Pog sneaking up behind them. There will be an air jab to watch that flank, but they've got to be careful that they have somebody watching it as well. If Kyle Pog uses that impact, which we just saw him do, now he'll be able to get up the stairs unimpeded. And I haven't seen anyone from Buffalo turn around and face that direction. Instead, they're going to be busy messing around on the site here. Chotapus will get thrown across the room by that air jab detonation, so Kyle will know that his position has been discovered. He'll back off and look to retreat back to the site. TB has been lit up here, but he'll try to do some damage of his own, as well as some impact tricking through the drone hole onto these Selma charges, successfully getting 2 of those Selma charges, so Void using that last one to open up the vault wall successfully. Now that it's been popped though, Buffalo, with the 2 kills they've been able to find in this 4v3, they have more than a chance at pushing into this site successfully now.
20 seconds left here. TB's getting aggressive. They didn't see that one coming. The Mamai finds a big pick, and Kyle doubles down as well. 2 versus 1 here, all up to Mossy Zilla. He does not have Case's back pocket and has to run into his own doom, essentially, as Kyle will whip around, head back into bar, and pick up the final attacker left. It's UNCC to clean house at the very end of round number 2.
I mean, where did that even come from? It looked like Buffalo had everything they needed for a successful Aviator and Games attack. Did they have the map control on the top floor? Yeah, they did. Did they get that vault wall open? Did they have firm control of 90 to then use vault and use that angle to the best of their ability? Yes, they did as well. But sometimes it comes down to gunfights. Sometimes it comes down to who is going to swing you. When are they going to be swinging? Is UNCC going to be taking gunfights and winning them? And in that case, they were. Buffalo just didn't stand a chance when it came to the gunplay. UNCC making that certain, and so 2 defensive rounds in a row is what UNCC will now have under their belt. Living room library to start as well. That is so demoralizing for the Buffalo attack. They go to Aviator in Games and they win that one as well. Now they've got the pick of 2 other very strong bomb sites, right? Trophy and Statuary, Kitchen and Dining. Which one do they want to hold down? Of course, we have that question answered, and we've got pretty similar lineup from both of these teams. Buffalo, despite the rocky start, they're sticking strong with what they know. Same lineup, same approach. We just got to see if they can play it a little bit better.
I'm really hoping that Mossy ends up not going for a linear take on the sledge and instead tries to get active utilizing that hammer. I feel like he's just been bringing the sledge for the nades, which isn't the worst idea, but that's only excusable on maps where it's hard to utilize the sledge for his stop destruction. Villa is not one of those maps. You have tons of sightlines that you can gather once that roam game has finally been dealt with, but Buffalo, a majority of their rounds so far, both really on Chalet, the one round they played an attack, and also now here on Villa, they either struggle to deal with that roam game or completely ignore it, and that's the exact opposite of what you should be doing here on Villa. You shouldn't have to worry about those flanks in the last minute of the round, and you should hopefully have that verticality in your back pocket so you can also force that anchor game to be 10 times more uncomfortable than what they were moments prior.
Rogue spotting out a drone will take care of that as Buffalo try to get some intel before they work their way into the building. It does appear that the top-down approach is going to be what they elect to do. And thankfully, like you said, fellow, Mossy will be undertaking that approach as well with the rest of his team. A nade could possibly work its way in. They suspect that Rogue is here, so they'll flash him out. The nade will come in, dealing with both the ADS and that deployable shield. Rogue is still going to stay here, though. He's not going to back off. Remaining boldly so, confident on the Astro stairs, and that is actually going to end up costing him his life. Good kill from Void, but a great follow-up C4 from Yeti. A shame that it didn't catch Mossy or Void. Instead, the target, of course, was Chotapus, but still a good pick. Still some nades off the board for Buffalo and UNCC. I mean, they've managed to equalize.
I mean, you talked about the strength of Valkyrie here on Villa, and it's just feeding constant information here for UNCC, despite the fact they've already given up this top floor. They still have Nitro Cells to play off of, and they know where exactly these last couple of attackers are situated here. There is another pick here for Buffalo, so it's not the end of the world just yet, but we could see a potential refrag a second time now with a Nitro. TB's got one in their back pocket, and any of these players that have already been dropped dead, such as Link or Rogue, could just be feeding that information to their teammates that are already still up on the board, and making it in that 3 versus 3, if you kill somebody like the Sledge who still has a nade in their pocket, it would be just a couple of claymores for secondary utility at this point, and it would mostly come down to gunfights in these last 40 seconds if they're able to find that Nitro Cell pick.
Ooh, Duck takes a fight here and wins it. Yeti none the wiser, and that is a great continuation of this round from Buffalo. Even though they only have 30 seconds, this is a 4v2 and looks like the first round we might see them secure here. They've got to worry, of course, about TB on the site, who still has a Nitro Cell and can deny this plant, can deny this push, but now that they've dealt with Kyle, it's just about finding this last kill, and Mossy will get it done. Buffalo, good to see them finally taking an attacking round. Still down by 1 here on Villa, but finally we see what it looks like when Buffalo chain together a cohesive approach, and it looked good.
Yeah, 100%. They took their time clearing out the top floor. They left every corner checked fully. Nothing was unaccounted for. They did a fantastic job dealing with the util and also man presence up above. They had plenty of time to go for verticality. And then they picked the perfect time to transition down into the middle floor and just take their one-for-one gunfights with that slight advantage, which is always something you love to see for an attacking team. So great job to Buffalo for ending the 9 round, almost 10 round cycle of nothing but defeat. Unfortunately, though, they're going to have to go back down here towards this middle floor of dining room and kitchen. And if they do not replicate that exact same success, and if we have UNCC actually adapt from their previous mistakes, that might only be 1 round that we see so far for Buffalo.
Well, going to the same site, as we've talked about, is always a bold decision, especially when there is another viable site on the board. And Buffalo, sensing that there may have been a couple of imperfections with that previous attack, they're not going to run the identical lineup that they have for the previous 3 rounds. Chodipus will be switching off of the Yana to the Ashe. And that is interesting to see because you're losing out on 2 of those frag grenades, but what the Yana doesn't have is a ton of that explosive utility, and that is something that Chodipus will bring. Maybe Buffalo feel that their utility game could be a little bit stronger, and, you know, that vertical destruction could be a little bit more polished because Ashe, of course, has those 2 breaching rounds, much like Chodipus initially brought those 2 nades on the Yana, but now 3 breaching charges in addition to that, to place on a surface, usually on the floor or the ceiling of the site below, so that, yeah, you can get a couple more vertical angles to work with. A good fallback plan if Mossy ends up falling, if, you know, your Sledge can't use that breaching hammer like we saw in that previous round. But this one is off to a very similar start. Buffalo, they know of Rogue's position on these Astro stairs, and they want to deal with him as soon as possible. Rogue's job here, and a good correction from the previous round, would simply be backing off a little bit sooner, not allowing himself to be caught off guard.
Yeah, that would be the best option here. The nade actually is tossed a bit too far. I think that Mossizilla wanted to actually pick off the Jaeger first and foremost, but it's not going to work in the slightest. TB will find a shot through some vertical sightlines, I believe it to be, and now Rogue will eventually fall back, but there's already been so much time and now utility exposed and expended, what I should say here. And he actually gets away with his own life too, so the man advantage still in the pocket of UNCC as well. About 1:30 left, and losing out on Mossizilla out of all players here, it is going to weaken that vertical destruction tenfold. They still have Chodipus, of course, and Duck having plenty of explosivity on their own end, but that is going to heavily limit what kind of sightlines that Buffalo can gather in this last minute.
Kyle just holding down this site, knows that Void is creeping his way in from Laundry. Void won't be pushing in alone, though. As the ace, he wants to make sure he's supported by at least some angles from above so that they can force out Kyle from that position he is currently holding. He's not going to spot out anyone, though, let alone the smoke from the Pacific angle. He did choose to open up. TB will run right into China, exactly where Duck was already holding, but neither player will actually land the fatal blow. It is Rogue instead who jumps back into the mix. I think from that basement staircase, pops right back up and takes care of Duck. Chotepus does trade that one back. The Jaeger, again, getting a little bit too aggressive for his own good and overstaying his welcome. But with 24 seconds to go, Buffalo need to turn their focus from this top floor to the site itself, and they simply are running out of time. Chotepus will finally drop down. The Selma charge on the wall, but he had no idea Kyle was close around the corner with a shotgun. Now Kyle swings out with the SMG-11. Zeeb gets the trade, but now is last alive against 3. TB on the long angle will finish him off, and like you said, fellow, UNCC, they seeked to make those corrections, and it paid off.
Yeah, I mean, having someone to back up the Jaeger player on the top of Astra's stairs was just a fantastic call. Now, maybe if the nade play had worked, that could have been a slightly different story. But at the end of the day, I still feel like Mossy would have died there. And again, that weakens your vertical coverage. And despite the fact there was no sledge on the board, Buffalo seemed very persistent on wanting to play for that top floor control and really never transitioned down into that middle floor. They were incredibly low on time, and that just again played into the strengths of UNCC because they had so many positions to set up in that were very comfortable throughout the site, and it was just too much to handle for Buffalo. Again, great adaptation there by UNCC, and now they're going to be heading back towards a pretty default site here of Aviator and Games. And really, the only thing I cannot say that's default is the operator selection here by Rogue, because he's opting for the Ella, which you don't get to see every day, but I feel like personally it's a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine just to see how effective she can be put in the right hands.
Especially if you bring out the shotgun, it's always a
Oh my god,
blast
yes.
to see how Ella players make that work, and maybe that's what we'll see from Rogue. We haven't. I don't know if we'll see his primary weapon in a second here. Maybe he'll bring out that Scorpion, the Vector that just burns through people. But for now, rocking with the pistol. So guess we'll never know. It'll remain a mystery. The silenced pistol, actually going for a spawn peek as well with the pistol does imply that, maybe he's got that shotgun in his hands if he does indeed take up this position on the main stairs. That is generally a stronger position for a shotgun. No, okay. So he'll have the SMG, he'll have the Scorpion in hands with that hollow, so he can play a little bit longer range engagements. It isn't the best gun, of course, at super long range, but in a mid-range fight, that will certainly send enough bullets down range to tear through any attacker.
I mean, the Scorpion, it's just a bullet hose. It has such a jacked rate of fire, and even after its nerf, like years ago, it is still a pretty good gun, and like I said, put in the right hands. So if Rogue is allowed to just find a couple of people lined up at the worst time possible and they don't have a flashbang tossed the right way or a grenade is not meant to follow up onto Rogue's position, he could be gifted a couple of easy 2Ks to really give UNCC that early man advantage. So far, though, there's not going to be really any contention inside of Study, so Rogue will be quite relaxed here, a bit nonchalant. He's not really getting inside of any confrontations just yet. For the most part, it'll be the back of 90 here being opened up towards Hunting Vault and a shield trying to be burned as well, but that ADS will luckily catch whatever they tried throwing at it, so it's going to remain on top here for a bit while longer.
Yeah, good shot there from Yeti through the drone hole to deal with Duck, who was, I think, also maybe trying to get a little bit frisky on that drone hole. Another, actually, Buffalo player will go prone, maybe looking to take this gunfight, actually looking to toss the nade in, but it didn't get in far enough. Chodep is actually doing a little bit of damage to themselves instead of towards Yeti, who is on the complete other side of this gun vault position. The nade geared more towards, that vault to games door isn't going to do a ton. Nobody was in position again to get affected by that. So the utility game from Buffalo still need a little bit of work, and now their drone work is going to be tested because Rogue is hiding in a corner. You've still got these power positions being held firm by this defense, and unless Buffalo figure this out when they walk into this site, they are in for a nasty surprise.
And the main point of contention mostly is being aviator because no one's dealt with bookshelves at all for the time being, and that hunting wall has not been opened up either. Sure, you've got Mossy Zill in the back near study, but it's just a lone sledge, and he'll most likely have to tussle with the Ella in such a close quarters gunfight. It's only a matter of time before he gets taken care of. 20 seconds remain here for Buffalo, and they're just kind of hard stalling. They are trying to take their time here and find some sort of opening, and there it is. Rogue will go into a mid-range confrontation and actually lose that gunfight against the sledge. Now we're on even footing, but again, the time is still ticking. Chotopus lands a nice shot on towards Link, but there are still toxic canisters on the board, but it's not going to be enough to stall the plant up until now. Kyle will get aggressive, down goes Void, and there's simply no time left. I believe it was the verticality by Kyle with an impact play underneath to seal the deal and give UNCC yet another round here in the first half.
Yeah, what UNCC did so well there is they made sure to cover all of their bases. It was every defender was watching a different angle, all doing so in a really, really nice job. I mean, it shows their cohesion, how effectively they were able to take that round, even though it looked like for a moment Buffalo were going to claw their way back. It was Kyle Pog sitting below. Like you said, he had those impact holes, he had those lines of sight right onto that aviator door from either the study side or from the red stairs. Kyle could watch it. You had somebody on the top of main stairs. It was Rogue who was trying to hold down study as people ran in. Of course, that didn't work as well for the Ella, but still a good position that wasted time that gave Buffalo a little bit of trouble. Same goes for that shield on the game's door facing the 90 hall, where we saw all those attackers trying to push their way in from that gun vault. They were all really trying to force their way in, but a couple of just misplaced nades, a failed utility game. The Selmas got wasted elsewhere. They could not open that essential position. And Buffalo, we saw how much they struggled. But again, you've got to give credit for UNCC to exploit that effectively. Buffalo are once again in a tough spot. However, they, on their own map pick, are down 3 rounds. They're now facing another living room library defense that we saw them struggle on pretty substantially last time.
The big thing for Buffalo, the first time library was brought out by UNCC, was the fact that the top floor was just ignored completely by Buffalo. They went for a very linear take, which almost worked out because they had a sightline into the objective room of living room to almost go for a plant, but they still had to worry about TB rocking the echo with those yokais. So in the end, trying to just resist that top floor presence was inevitably futile. This time around, they'll actually change their playstyle and start off on the top floor, which I'm a huge fan of. If they can find some sort of early pick or even just force UNCC to fall back, that will allow, again, Mossy Zill just to have a lot of impact on this round and maybe give his teammates some important sightlines to get some sort of pick if they don't on this top floor, and then allow for a much easier plant to go down as well.
Well, here, now that we have 60 seconds burned, we've got a little bit more clarity as to how Buffalo are approaching this one. One of your complaints last time, fellow, was Mossy and the way that the sledge was refusing to play vertical, and it looks like we've got, a similar problem emerging. Mossy wants to go direct, so does Void. We could see Void attempt once again an early plant. That is what Buffalo tried to work in last time, but in the meantime, they are still trying to clear out parts of this top floor, not necessarily the entire thing. They do need some semblance of control because you have an Echo sitting up above. You've got TB just holding down in vault. And if you can't force TB out, you're going to have to find a way to actually track down those yokai drones and deal with them. You don't have an IQ or a twitch, so you're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way with a couple of well-placed bullets. And as we saw last time, that is not the easiest feat, because as long as one yokai can spot you out and deny the plant, at that point, all the defenders have to do is just work their way in and do it themselves. So now we got to see Buffalo make that adjustment and clear out TB. Kyle Pog has dropped down and is now playing on the site, but there are still 2 defenders on this top floor that Buffalo are now attempting to encounter, but TB is ready for it.
Oh no, what a nasty angle. And it's a tag team by both TB and Kyle to get rid of Mossy Zilla. I was going to mention 50 seconds left and not a single pick has happened. It's only favored the side of UNCC as Buffalo. They've got no idea what's happening to them right now here on round number 6. Chotopus will finally get a pick for his team. He'll now double down to pick up a second one on towards Link, but is this going to be enough to stop the onslaught of UNCC? Potentially, as Duck will join in on the action, Rogue will manage to refrag out Void, but the time is still ticking. Case is dropped in the middle of the site as well. It'll be the Iona to retrieve that, and there is some coverage being established by Duck. He'll get rid of Rogue. It's all up to TB, and I don't think they have a yokai in their pocket. We'll never know, as he'll try to swing out against Zofia, and he's not going to win that 1-for-1. Finally, we see a clapback performed by Buffalo, but a 4-2 split, that's still not the best position moving into the second half.
No, it is not a great place to be, but again, credit where credit is due. A phenomenal comeback in that round from Buffalo. Duck
Yeah.
putting on a performance there, getting a couple of nice shots in the end. Something that we have not seen from Buffalo in the past was their ability to not only, win a couple of rounds, sure, but win a round where they start off in a pretty substantial disadvantage. Last time, on several times, we've seen UNCC have similar disadvantages and work their way back in the round. Good to see Buffalo finally doing that themselves. Like you said, though, fellow, it isn't the best place to be, keeping in mind that at the collegiate level, Villa does tend to be quite defensive sided. And UNCC, with 4 rounds on the defense, Buffalo eking out the 2 rounds they technically needed on the attacking side, could be poised for a successful defensive run of their own. Right? They're in a good spot. It's a
hmm
defensive sided map. All they've got to do is chain the next 4 rounds together, and all of a sudden, bam, we're in OT, or we've got even a Buffalo map on our hands. I know I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here, fellow, but I just really want to see Buffalo get a couple of rounds here. I want to see them make this competitive. I mean, the first match on stream, want to make it as exciting as possible, and I hope Buffalo can do that for us.
I hope so too, to be honest, because they have had moments where they made it either close or they won altogether. We've seen them take 2 rounds, which is much better than not getting a single round on Chalet. And again, they've got the right idea of trying to clear out that top floor or going for vertical here and there, but just I feel like in general, time management was a tremendous issue for Buffalo on their attacks. Luckily, they're not going to have to worry about time as much on the defense. In fact, it'll favor them if they can burn about a minute to a minute 30 on the board while just doing really not much against the attack. That is going to be a huge net buff if they're able to perform that here. And it actually looks like they'll have a roam game being attempted by Void. I'm not too sure if he can fit through that rotate hole inside of Astro leading into Trophy, so he might end up dying here. And yeah, he got caught in the rotate. Yeti will cut him down, and that's a huge double opening pick for UNCC as Mossy tried to follow up with a refrag, but will not find anything in that predicament.
Yeah, Mossy trying to avenge his teammate, getting involved, but getting a bit too aggressive for his own good and getting punished because of it. You've only got 3 defenders left, all of whom are backing off and playing a little bit safer. Chotopus isn't going all the way back to the site, still electing to play downstairs, and at least in terms of one pick, that will work. Trying to play for the C4 later in the round is certainly a smart strategy, but now you really got to evaluate, is that really the place you want to be if there are only 2 defenders left to hold down the site proper? Chotopus will, of course, get that 1 kill, so something can be said for that, but he will work his way back up into the mix. Actually, into study where they've been spotted out by TV's drone here. Now that Chotopus has spotted that drone, likely to reposition yet again, does not want to get pinched out by a UNCC attack that is proven when they locate defenders, they can pinch them out very quickly.
10 on the board. Still plenty of time to work with here for UNCC. They're just about ready to attempt and break through. Maybe that hunting vault. That's a great shot landed by Zeeb. Still in a comfortable position, playing behind that Vulcan shield, and now having time to put back up a new magnet in case anything comes flying its way. Duck playing quite close. Toss out a Nitro Cell, but he's out in the open. Yeti with 3 big picks on the sledge. It's only up to Chotopus. Goes for the Nitro Cell toss, but gets caught out by Link and gets off the plant at just the right time. It's a 5th round here for UNCC as they will take their first attacking round here with flying colors.
That is a massive missed opportunity for Duck. I think that was the player who was sitting by the bomb chassis in Aviator. No, I think Buck was the one who had the shot with the SMG-11 potentially onto the person just
Yeah.
running behind that vault door. I don't think UNCC knew Duck was there. And unusual to say that because UNCC in their intel game has been, nearly impeccable up to this point. But Duck had the opportunity of a lifetime. Could have taken down the person with diffuser in hand, could have really opened up that round for Buffalo and given them a chance to redeem themselves. But of course, as powerful as Duck's position may have been, it was also one of those crazy high risk positions where if it works, it'll work damn well. But if it doesn't, you are already caught out in the open with very few options. Duck tried to launch that C4, but at that point, there was somebody from UNCC covering the doorway, and with the nitro cell caught in your hand, you literally cannot shoot back. So a tough one there for Buffalo and a tough break, losing 2 players right off the bat. Chotapus doing a nice job to get at least 1 kill back onto, I think it was Kyle, who was a little bit isolated on that bottom floor, trying to roam clear on his own. But using that early start, UNCC just leveraged the map control they had been able to secure and just use that to roll into a pretty successful execute at the end of the day.
So we're going to have the top floor of Aviator being played a second time in a row now for Buffalo. I'm getting a small sense of deja vu, Jonah, with having just a replication of objective rooms, but really not a lot of change overall for the side of Buffalo. They're still opting to go for pretty much the exact same roam stylization near Statuary and also Astro. No one's playing in the back of blue near Astro, so they're not going to get caught out early on. That's at least one huge bonus here. And Zeeb, along with Void, are kind of playing in tandem, but there are a lot of opportunities for UNCC to possibly isolate both the Omai and Jaeger combination, as we already have both them drop down early on. That's a pretty quick fallback, despite the fact they had so much yield to the playoff. If I feel like that's a bit of a blunder, in all honesty, Jonah.
Yeah, not the best opening start to this round, I suppose. I don't even know what I'm trying to say there.
Don't blame you.
As things begin with 60 seconds burned, we'll see how Buffalo try to adapt, right? We saw that they went for an extension last time and it didn't work so well, and I suppose a reasonable adaptation is to just not play as extended. That's what we're seeing here. They're not sacrificing their lives on the other side of the map. Everyone is either on the site or slightly below it. In the case of Chotapus and Zeeb, also playing below, trying to maybe, again, play for the late game, play for that C4 to deny the plant, but without that C4 from Chotapus now, he's going to have to do the job the old-fashioned way with the Vector in hand, a teammate at his side. In this case, that might be Void, who is also trying to play from below. But with 3 defenders sitting below, that means that if UNCC do decide to go for this push, thankfully Chotapus is back, but if they decide to go for the push, it would be relatively uneven on the site itself. That's what Buffalo have to be careful of.
Especially since they might lose a pick early on, perhaps. Void gets spotted out in the middle floor, could potentially fall back. He's got plenty of time to do exactly that. 50 seconds remain, and no one's died just yet. So the fallback that I was a bit concerned about, because you wasted some util early on, at least it pays off in the fact you had that safety net, you have everybody alive, and now you can hold these anchor positions and maybe go for a pick, and that's all you'll need. Yeti so far, though, gets the first one onto Duck. Chotapus spots one out near Hunting, but he's getting pushed aggressively by the IQ. Post-plant situation, as the Jaeger of Void was not able to find anything underneath. We're on completely even footing in terms of the man count, but we're in the post-plant. A wall gets opened up by Zeeb as he blasts through it. Kyle Pog in the middle of study will get rid of Void. He'll pick up a second one as well next to Aviator, and now Zeeb is the last one alive inside of 90. He'll spring inside of Games Room, but it's a 1 versus 3, and the bomb has already been put down. It's a 1-for-1 trade between the Ash and Wamai, as UNCC will put themselves into both match and now series point.
What's been so impressive to me about UNCC is that despite an obvious advantage in terms of gun skill that they've shown us occasionally here and there, right? They're also playing incredibly objective focused, fellow. And that is, I mean, I'd love to see that from a team like this who is, trying to come into their own. They're trying to work their way up this collegiate ladder, make a name for themselves, doing so with objective play in mind. Just showcases a lot of maturity. It's easy enough to see that you have a gun skill advantage and try to frag out, take fights, and win every round by sheer fragging. But what they've done on Chalet and now here on Villa is just focusing on getting that diffuser down. And when they do, when they've had that focus, Buffalo have just been unable to slow them down. We've seen Buffalo in so many post-plant situations because they've let the bomb go down so many times. That's what's hampering this defense in a large part because they just haven't had the most cohesive retakes. You shouldn't need retakes that often. You should be contesting when the bomb is getting planted. Use those C4s, use those toxic smokes, do whatever you can to let that bomb go down in a game like, CS or Valorant, right? Those post-plant retakes are a lot more common and a lot easier to get done. But in a game like Siege with those attackers then turn defenders can back off and play incredibly passive. They can play vertical. They can play with a nade. They have so many options to work with. It just puts the defense in such a tough spot.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Valorant because you're exactly right for that game where you have a lot of retakes. That is just the standard attempt by the defense is you might need to give away the site essentially to allow for a plant, but now you have your whole team to play for a fallback or pardon a retake. You should not be having that happen though for Rainbow Six. It completely changes the playing field as an attack to get that bomb down and really have little to no denial against you inside of the objective room. And UNCC have been playing into that strength countless times here. Duck will be playing into the strength of this nice little kill hole inside of Closet to deal some damage towards Rogue. Not enough to kill him outright, so he'll still be able to gather some information underneath and try to break that ADS, but cannot line up the shot with the pistol just enough to destroy it. So not going to break that one piece of minute information, but he can relay this intel still to his teammates that there is a heavy extension inside of Closet, and now they can either ignore it or try to confrontationally deal with it early on in this round.
Duck really trying to take these early round fights, just as you said, but a perfect nade from Yeti will take him down. Well played there from UNCC. That utility game, like we've highlighted so far, working very well for them here on match point. Yeti with a follow-up right onto Void's head, not before Mossy picked up a kill onto Link, but it is still UNCC with the advantage. Zeeb now taken care of thanks to Rogue. It is Chodapus and Mossy-Zilla. Just kidding. It is all up to Mossy, who gets one more, but that is all she wrote. That is a two-map series that UNCC took incredibly swiftly. Buffalo just cannot hang in there. 7-0, 7-2, UNCC on top.
Yeah, 14-2. That is a huge round differential. And I mean, props to UNCC for just playing a good game of Siege today. They really did everything right. One thing I want to look at in particular was on that last round where we had the nade play underneath. That is an incredibly easy way of dealing with the Closet player. You huck out a nade, you don't have to worry about the ADS catching it because it can't see through floors, obviously, especially if they're not opened up. One nade, all that was needed. It got rid of a shield, an entire smoke player, which is phenomenal for denial. And you and I were talking about how important these post plant positions have been for UNCC. And then they just continued that forward momentum. They snowballed that first pick and really never gave Buffalo time to breathe. So congrats to UNCC for taking a very one-sided matchup. They earned that 100%, but I'm really hoping next time we see Buffalo in play, they can do much better because I think they have it in them 100%.
Right, and it's no mystery, there are a couple things. There are pretty specific things that Buffalo need to work on, and hopefully,
Yep.
watching this VOD back will give them some clarity, right? Some of their drone work, their early intel, just not sufficient, right? When it came down to those defensive holds, they didn't focus enough on denying the plant, and UNCC countering that with just very solid objective focus gave them a lot of success. But UNCC, this is that redemption that they needed. As I said, before we got into this match, UNCC one of maybe regarded as one of these top 10, top 15 teams just coming into the start of the regular season. They come out of the gates with a troubling week one performance against York. That is not what they wanted to do, but this is the redemption that they were hoping for. A correction, maybe get them back on track. In a Swiss bracket, things can slip away from yourself, very quickly. You want to be at the top. You want to be playing with the best just to compare yourself against the best every single week. And so now UNCC at a 1-1 overall record, they'll have a chance to, work their way back up and continue to play against teams of their caliber.
Yeah, fingers crossed we see that redemption arc happen here for Buffalo. It's clearly already starting to boil down for UNCC because, yeah, again, I hate to beat a dead horse at this point, but man, they really killed it here in this best of three. And I think we'll get an interview started up relatively shortly. We've got to, get links sorted out and all that, and hopefully get one of the players here in UNCC that's actually interested in talking with us for a couple minutes to really pick at their brain and see, what went right, what went wrong in that best of three. Really, not much went wrong, but just the little things they think they could have improved on. That's always something nice to talk about, especially since there's very different answers for almost every team, especially in collegiate, because there's just so many different play styles you can look at in just a single night. It's pretty impressive to see from time to time, Jonah.
Well, we actually have our interview ready to go. So
Ooh.
we are going to speak with TB, I believe the captain of this UNCC roster. TB, can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up?
Awesome. I can hear you as well. First of all, congratulations on a week 2 victory, a dominant one at that over Buffalo. Of course, you made the match pretty quick. We'll do the same for this. But good to see you, of course. Talk to me about your approach, to this series overall. You had a troubling week 1. That was obviously not the start you wanted. Did you make any mindful corrections coming into week 2 against Buffalo to see what you could fix?
Yeah, so first, thanks for having me. Fun hour and a half game. I think we took care of business, but week one we were playing with the subs, so we knew it was going to be a little different. Obviously, I think we still should have won, but today we knew what we wanted map wise. Our strats were looking nice, and we got the maps we wanted, and I think it clearly went in our favor.
Yeah, Chalet seemed like a territory that you were very comfortable on. And it's good to see,
Yeah.
collegiate teams like yourselves comfortable on, more unknown territory. And Bank left up as a decider. Is Bank a map you feel comfortable on going to there?
Yeah, I mean, right now, I think we feel good on every map. That's how we've been playing for the last like 2 years. We don't want to just auto ban maps and say we can't play them because, I mean, if it came down to it, yeah, Bank we'd be comfortable with.
All right. Well, fellow, you got any questions for
Yeah, I mean, going living room and library first. I mean, you
him?
just talked about how comfortable you guys are on almost every single map. Can that be said for site play as well?
Yeah, I mean, Bank gets a little different because obviously that was introduced last season, I think, for the first time in comp. But living room on Villa, we took a page out of the UAH playbook from the past few years. Figured we'd make that site try and work, and I mean, I think we found a setup we're comfortable with. So.
Yeah, seem pretty clear about that, Jonah.
I mean, I got nothing else for you, TB. Anything else you wanna throw out there? Any thanks to your supporters out there before we wrap this up?
Um, I mean, our
I
esports
mean, no need. I
club,
mean, it's week 2.
I don't know. I don't have any plugs. I mean, you can follow me on Twitter at Tyler Bentivania. That's about it.
Well, there you go. TB, good to have you on. Glad we could get your game on stream, and hopefully we'll catch more of you guys down the line. A really, really strong victory here in week 2, and hopefully there's more of UNCC to come. We'll talk to you later, all right?
Yep. Thank you.
All right, have a good one. Well, fellow, I mean, seemed pretty clear that they knew what they were walking into, and they felt
Yeah.
pretty confident in doing so. A shame, they had that sub in week 1, and they just couldn't pull out the win there. But they do seem like a team, don't they? That just will go ahead and I think be pretty strong in this, East Conference in the future.
Oh yeah, 100%. That was a incredible showing, and yeah, along with Buffalo, hope to see them again very, very soon. But I think that concludes everything for us today. It's been an absolute blast getting to cast for the R6 Collegiate Championship officially here, and none of them with Jonah by my side as well. So we hope to see you again very, very soon. I think we got some more matches coming up. I'll go check the schedule just to let everyone know. The next match we have is actually a week from today, February 12th, where it's going to be both Chief and Sticula up in the casting booth. And speaking of talent, might as well thank Nova and Tango as well for observing and also producing today's matchup as well. They'll be there next week as well, but unfortunately, we won't be up there. But hey, still a pretty good casting duo. Yes, Jonah?
Yeah, fellow, I will throw one more thing in there before we close.
Feel free.
If you want to follow, more action throughout the league, you go ahead and follow, Face It College on Twitter at Face It College, because our social media team behind the scenes, they're doing such a great job of just throwing out a lot of content about what's going on in the league, not just on stream. So they'll probably provide a recap of what you saw here on stream tonight. We can also see updates about the standings across the entire league, any updates, all of that is at Face It College on Twitter. So go take a look at that. But yes, as fellow said, that is going to do it for us tonight. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you all next week. So long.